Hello, John.
Hello, Warren.
So today we're going to talk about the origin of Irish shoes. We're going to particularly talk about the Pampootie, which was an Aran Island shoe made of leather. But before we talk about that, I want to say something to you about shoes in Ireland, okay, and people's feet in general, okay. I asked my friends if they would know if they'd recognize their feet in a photograph, and they all thought they would. I'm getting on to here now about shoes and feet, right? So And then I took a photograph of three people's feet. Okay. And then I said to them afterwards, okay, pick out your feet. And they couldn't. Okay. So uh, most people know what what their face looks like, what their hands look like, but they only discover what their feet look like when they have a pain on the foot. We take our feet for granted
Yeah,
completely, right? Okay. So anyway, so that's what I wanted to say, and that Irish shoes, there's a very, very bad choice. But anyway, so I'm going to read this out to you anyway. This is some of my research. Okay, so the origin of Irish shoes, the full story is in the description. So shoes might seem like an ordinary part of life, but in Ireland they carry a story that stretches from poverty and survival to global craftsmanship. On the windswept Aran Islands, people once wore the rawhide Pampootie, a shoe that lasted only weeks, yet carried generations across stone and bog, etc. Fast forward to today, and Ireland is home to world-renowned brands like Dubarry's, O'Sullivan's, and Padmore and Barnes, crafting boots and shoes worn across the globe. This is more than just footwear; it's a tale of resilience, tradition, and identity. In this video, we trace the journey of the Irish shoe from ancient high to modern heritage. If you love Irish history, folklore, and culture, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and join us while we walk through time. John Malone.
correct. Now, the Pookie shoes, that are footwear that was made in the Aran Islands, which is a very windswept and beautiful island in many ways. I visited and was on it for quite a while. You get a boat over to it, and it was quite interesting to see the various holy wells that were there and various the history of it to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, I didn't come across the evidence of about the shoes that we're talking about. They're a feature of the Arden Islands going back in the centuries, and it was made from rawhide, of cattle, and fitted onto the person and tied with the same type of thing, and they could mend it, or they could keep it longer than its lifespan by doing various things to it to keep it going. And it would have been, it wouldn't have cost much in the line of money for it to be done. And but it helped them to navigate tough terrain that's there, windswept island. It's off the Atlantic, and the next port is in the United States, and it's a fairly hilly and rocky as well, and the land would be pretty severe in many ways. And I noticed that when we were there, because I took a good walk around it. I spent the whole day there to try and get a flavour of it. There was a pub there, I think, or two, and they left a bit to be desired with what they had, the fare they had, and the food and the sort of music they were playing. I prefer to hear traditional Irish music myself when I'm here, when I'm in any place. I don't want to hear that raucous type of music that you hear in shopping centres, and I don't think they have a clue about the type of people that's going there. People like a sort of music that lifts the spirit. Most of their music would have the opposite effect. But we're talking about shoes, and shoes were a very important ingredient. Having regard for the fact that about people don't notice about their shoes, but when you're walking in your barefoot, you do notice something about shoes. And I think because of that, and because of where I come from, no, I wasn't around my bare feet, I don't think, except when I was at the seaside or the lakeside and going swimming. but I saw plenty of people in their bare feet, and shoes would be a very important ingredient for them to put on a nice pair of shoes going to mass on a Sunday or going to somewhere special, that type of thing, because there often be concerts. I went to many a concert when I was young because that's where you had concerts in the parochial hall, and I was on the stage one time myself, and about 12 other little scuts out in house, and it was jumping jack and bouncing Bill. You were putting your arms up and jump, and it was quite good, So it was on the stage, kind of thing. But we're talking about shoes, and then don't forget. You didn't mention the dancing shoes that the little girls when they're doing the hornpipes and all. They have
Oh,
special
yes.
shoes.
They're extra
Don't forget
special.
them. Oh yes, and they're dancing around and they have the little uniforms that contribute to, or the clothes that they wear, and that's a form of a tradition as well. And they're doing their jigs and reels and all the rest of it. And it's always very, it looks, it used to lift people's spirits when they saw that at the concert hall, and they say there's so and so and there's so and so. And if you had a daughter there, that's my daughter over there, and you'd be all yapping about this with the nice shoes that they had for the dancing. And oftentimes then there was lads dancing these reels and that, and were very good. Don't forget river dance,
Hmm.
the business of shoes and dancing shoes. But we're not into the dancing business. We're talking about the survival business. And then when things come and a few bob was beginning to store. You had Dubarry shoes, beautiful shoes. I think about the moccasin, but there was lovely shoes, and I always buy Dubarry because I thought they were still made here. No, they're made in Portugal, which is in the EU, and the people that owned Dubarry shoes, did they decide to move to Portugal or what? Because it might be a bit cheaper than here. Would that been the reason? And there was Padmore and Barnes in Kilkenny, and I was in that place, and they had lovely shoes. I think I bought shoes in it, and they're beautiful. And then there was a crowd. I don't think you mentioned them, but there was a crowd, and I don't know if they're still going. They made handmade shoes. Now they would be expensive, and I can't think of the name, but I remember I met them. Handmade shoes.
Hmm.
Did you come across that?
I came across
Handmade.
quite a few companies. So you had Dubarry's in Galway, you had the Sullivan's Boots in Killarney, you had Padmore and Barnes in Kilkenny, and you had various factories scattered around
And there was
Portlaoise.
another one in Dundalk that
Okay.
made footwear. I think it was like strong footwear, farmers and that, and a variety. And I think there was another one in Carrickmacross, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I remember seeing it. I can't just think of the name of it, but there was shoe manufacturers, and then of course you had cobblers as well, and that mended shoes. And my father, Lord of mercy, him, had a last, and he used to mend our shoes, and was able to cut the whatever is the leather and that. So shoes lasted a good long time. They weren't sort of here today and gone tomorrow, like, and clothes the same. When you got a suit, be good as it did you for a long time. There was no such thing as, but now there's clothes can be bought in supermarket in these stores that have cheap and cheerful, I suppose you might say, and they can buy clothes and discard them. So this is where you have. Oh no, we're talking about shoes. Yes, shoes are so shoes. Well, I know the shoes now. To be honest about it, I notice if I see a good quality shoe, and there are good quality shoes. And I have some Clarks. That's what was made. Clarks. They were made in Dundalk. They were a great shoe, and I have. Clark shoes. I just noticed them there, and they're laces, and I must put them on because sometimes I have these slip-on ones, that I don't need to be lacing. But the ones that I have, that I just mentioned there, Clark's, beautiful shoe. I'm going to wear them tomorrow, please God.
That's it. The thing is, I think it's difficult enough to get a nice looking pair of shoes in Ireland at a good price.
That's true. It is, and you want a good pair of shoes. You don't want this cheap and cheerful,
Yeah.
because they're not so cheerful. You get shoes that look cheap, and I believe they're form of plastic. Now they might say leather uppers or leather this, but they're not suitable. I think if to get a good shoe costs a few bob, and a shoe that more or less fits. I have a couple of shoes and they cost a few quid, but they're very comfortable.
Hmm.
And one of them I can slip on, and the other one that's the same type is laced. And now one is a kind of a brown, not a bright brown, but a mid brown, if you like, that you can wear with everything, and it's slip on and very comfortable. And but I have the Clarks I noticed there, and the laces, and I must put them on because I hardly wore them because I looked at them. They look as if I only wore them once or twice. But I got to put them on now and see because they look a lovely shoe.
So there we go, John Malone.
When we're
We
talking about shoes,
we are
huh?
fortunate enough to have many pairs of shoes, and when our brothers and
That's right.
sisters in times past didn't have a pair of shoes, they had to
No, they did not. They
wear.
had the black and brown, and they had polish to keep them ship shape and Bristol fashion, and they got them repaired because they were kind of leather shoes. They weren't any other type, and they were able to get them repaired. Or my father learned the machine did it, but after he went, I used to get them repaired myself. We got the habit of it.
So we
They
didn't
were
have to.
good shoes, and you kept them for a good while. And I'd say some people are probably still doing that because there's people still repairing shoes. I can see that. Uh,
They're
so
they're
uh,
they're few and
there
far
you
between,
are. You
though.
see, yeah. So this is what I was worried about, that kind of a carry on, and I still kind of think that way. But I have shoes now. I don't need to be even go to any person to get them fixed because I've enough shoes to do me for the rest of my life. So there you are, Oliver. So that was interesting about the shoes in the Aran Islands
It was
and
the
how that
Pampootie.
they were made, the Pampootie. We have to admire their resilience and the hard times that they had to survive in, and survive they did. A lot of them emigrated to the United States, and they stuck together. This is how they built the St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, the Irish. That's why it's called St. Patrick's Cathedral. And by the way, there's a lot of St. Patrick's cathedrals in the United States, in many places, and even in in uh, in Rome, there's a San Patricios, and I think the American expatriates that's in Rome, that's where they go for Mass on a Sunday. San
Very good.
Patricios.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much,
there you
John.
are. Okay, thanks very much, Oliver. Cheery boy.
I know.